Preserves, Part 1. To preserve Seville oranges liquid, as also lemons. Take the best Seville oranges and pare them very neatly. Put them into salt and water for about 2 hours. Boil them very tender, till a pin will go into them easily. Then drain them well from the water, and put them into your preserving pan, putting as much clarified sugar to them as will cover them, laying a trencher or plate on them to keep them down. Set them over a fire, and by degrees heat them till they boil. Let them have a quick boil, till the sugar comes all over them in a froth. Then set them by till next day, when you must drain the syrup from them and boil it till it becomes very smooth, adding some more clarified sugar. Put it upon the oranges and give them a boil, and set them by till next day, when you must do as the day before. The 4th day drain them and strain your syrup through a bag, and boil it till it becomes very smooth. Then take some other clarified sugar, boil it till it blows very strong, and take some jelly of pippins, as will hereafter be expressed, with the juice of some other oranges. After they are preserved as above directed, take 2 pounds of clarified sugar, boil it to blow very strong. Next 1 pint and a half of pippin jelly and the juice of 4 or 5 oranges. Boil them all together. Then put in the syrup that has been strained and boiled to be very smooth, and give all a boil. Put your oranges into your pots or glasses and fill them up with the above made jelly. When cold, cover them and set them by for use. Note: be careful in all your boilings to clear away the scum, otherwise you will endanger their working. And if you find they will swim above your jelly, you must bind them down with the sprig of a clean whisk. Sugar pears. Take any quantity of pears which are but half ripe. Make a split on their head crossways with a knife, no deeper than the heart. After this is done, put a pan of water on the fire, and when it boils, put your pears in it, and boil them in with a slow fire till they become a little soft. Then take them off the fire and throw them immediately into another pan of fresh water. Have again another pan of fresh water in which you squeeze 3 lemons. Pare your pears and put them in that lemon water. They will turn as white as snow. Then take a preserving pan, put in it some of the 1st degree of your clarified sugar, put your pears in it, and let them boil about 12 minutes, taking care to take off all the scum they will throw. Then take them out from the fire and put them in an earthen vessel. You will repeat this operation during the 4 days following, and strain the sugar off every time, and boil it before you put the pears in, because, as you will perceive, the sugar always throws off a white scum, which must be taken off, and it is after that you must put your pears in and boil them. When you see the syrup is very thick, and that your pears have well taken the sugar, put them in pots and take care that they be well covered with syrup, or else they will soon turn mouldy. Cover them with paper or parchment. To preserve moist ananas or pine apples. Take any quantity of ananas, cut them into 4 quarters or in round slices, and pare off the skin. Then take clarified sugar and water in equal quantities. Put in the ananas and proceed as before, taking care to skim them well during the time you are doing them. For it is very essential to remark that when you are making any sort of preserves whatever, if you do not skim them well, they are apt to grow sour, which occasions a great deal of trouble to repair them again. You must not boil the ananas in water first, as directed for the other fruits, because it would deprive it of its best substance and flavour. To preserve oranges with marmalade in them, and lemons. Pare your oranges. Make a round hole in the bottom where the stalk grew, the bigness of a shilling. Take out the meat and put them into salt and water for 2 or 3 hours. Then boil them very tender and put them into clarified sugar. Give them a boil the next day, drain the syrup and boil it till it becomes smooth. Put in your oranges and give them a good boil. When a little cool, drain them and fill them with a marmalade made as directed, putting in the round piece you cut out. With the syrup, some other sugar and pipping juice, make a jelly and fill up your pots and glasses. For variety, take 3 of your preserved oranges, take off the tops, cut them so as to look like little cups, and fill them with this marmalade. They both eat pleasant and make a variety. To preserve green oranges. Take the green oranges, slit them on one side, and put them into a brine of salt water, as strong as will bear an egg, in which they must be soaked at least 15 days. Then strain them and put them into fresh water, and boil them tender. Put them into fresh water again, shifting them every day for 5 days together. Then give them another scald and put them into clarified sugar. Give them a boil and set them by till next day. Then boil them again. The next day add some more sugar and give them another boil. The day after, boil the syrup very smooth, pour it on them and keep them. Note that if at any time you perceive the syrup begin to work, you must drain them and boil the syrup very smooth and pour it on them. But if the first proves sour, boil it likewise. Green lemons are done after the same manner. If the oranges are anything large, you must take out the meat from the inside. The Duchess of Cleveland's receipt for preserving lemons, oranges and citrons. Take good lemons, fair and well coloured, and scrape a little of the uppermost rind. Take out the seeds and the juice. Lay them in spring water, shifting them twice a day for a day or 2. Then boil them to be tender with 1 1/4 pounds of double refined sugar and 1 3/4 pints of spring water. Take the scum off and put it in your lemons. Have ready a pint of pippin water. Boil it first with ½ pound of sugar and put it to them. Boil it to a jelly and put in the juice of your lemons. Then let them boil, but a little after, and put them into your glasses, but be sure to cover them with syrup. How to take out the seeds. Cut a small hole in the top and take them out with a scoop. Dry them before you put them into your syrup with a clean cloth. To preserve greengages. Take any quantity of greengages, prick them with a pin, put them in a pan with water and set them on the fire. When you see the water beginning to boil, take them off and leave them in the same water to cool till the next day, when you are to set them again on a very gentle fire, that they may turn green. When you see they are green enough, put them in a sieve to drain. Then take clarified sugar, in which add 3 parts water, then the plums, and set the whole on a slow fire to make them throw off their water. After which put them in a pan for 2 days, and then add clarified sugar and proceed as for other preserves. To preserve cucumbers. Take little gherkins, put them in a large deep jug, cover them close down with vine leaves, fill the jug with water, cover it with a plate, set it in your chimney corner, a little distance from the fire, yet so as to keep warm. Let them stand so a fortnight, then throw them into a sieve to drain. They will look very yellow and will smell disagreeable. Throw them into spring water once or twice to clear them. Put them into a large deep stew pan or preserving pan. Cover them all over with vine leaves, put in as much clear spring water as will cover them, set them over a charcoal fire, look often at them, and when they are turned a fine green, drain off that water and put them into fresh cold water. Have your syrup made ready thus. To every pound of sugar add 1 pint of water, the clear peel of a lemon cut in long shreds, an ounce of ginger boiled in water for 1/4 of an hour. Put the ginger and lemon peel to the sugar and water, boil it to a syrup, throw in your cucumbers and give them a boil. Pour them into the pan you intend to keep them in, let them stand till next day, and boil them again 3 times. When cold, cover them up, and they make as fine a sweet as is tasted. At the same time, take large green cucumbers full ripe, and cut them in 4 long ways. Put them into cold water, cover them with green vine leaves, and set them over a charcoal fire till they boil. Take them off, throw them into cold water, and repeat it several times, till they are a fine green and tender. Then preserve them as before, or dry them as your other candied sweetmeats. Either way they answer in tarts, mince pies, or cakes, as well as citron. To preserve green almonds. Take the almonds when they are well grown, and make a lye with wood, charcoal and water. Boil the lye till it feels very smooth, strain it through a sieve, and let it settle till clear. Then pour off the clear into another pan and set it on the fire in order to blanch off the down that is on the almonds, which you must do in this manner, namely, when the lye is scalding hot, throw in 2 or 3 almonds, and try when they have been in some time if they will blanch. If they will, put in the rest, and the moment you find their skins will come off, remove them from the fire, put them into cold water and blanch them one by one, rubbing them with salt. Then wash them in several waters in order to clean them, in short, till you see no soil in the water. When this is done, throw them into boiling water and let them boil till so tender as a pin may easily pass through them. Drain and put them into clarified sugar without water. They being green enough do not require a thin sugar to bring them to a colour, but on the contrary, if too much heated they will become too dark a green. The next day boil the syrup and put it on them. The day after, boil it till it be very smooth. The day following, give all a boil together, scum them and let them lie 4 or 5 days. Then, if you will dry them or put them in jellies, you must follow the directions as for green apricots. Note, if you will have compote of either, it is but serving them to table when they are first entered, by boiling the sugar a little more. To preserve white citrons. Cut your white citrons into what size pieces you please. Put them into water and salt for 4 or 5 hours, then wash them in fair water and boil them till tender. Drain them and put them into as much clarified sugar as will cover them, and set them by till next day. Then drain the syrup and boil it a little smooth. When cool, put in your citrons. The next day, boil your syrup quite smooth and pour on your citrons. The day after, boil all together and put it into a pot to be candied, or put it into jellies and compose it as you may think proper. To preserve orange flowers. Take the orange flowers just as they begin to open. Put them into boiling water and let them boil very quick till they are tender, putting in a little juice of lemon as they boil to keep them white. Then drain them and dry them carefully between 2 napkins. Put them into as much clarified sugar as will cover them. The next day, drain the syrup and boil it a little smooth. When almost cold, pour it on the flowers, and the following day you may drain them and lay them out to dry, dusting them a very little. To preserve cochineal. Take 1 ounce of cochineal and beat it to a fine powder. Boil it in 3/4 pint of water to the consumption of half. Then beat half an ounce of roach alum and half an ounce of cream of tartar very fine and put them to the cochineal. Boil them all together a little while and strain it through a fine bag, which put into a phial and keep for use. Note: if an ounce of loaf sugar be boiled in with it, it will keep what you do not use immediately from moulding. To preserve golden pippins in jelly. Pare your pippins from all spots, and with a narrow pointed knife make a hole quite through them. Then boil them in fair water about 1/4 hour. Drain them and take as much sugar as will cover them. Boil it till it blows very strong. Then put in your pippins and give them a good boil. Let them cool a little and give them another. Then if you have, for example, a dozen of pippins, take 1 pound of sugar and boil it till it blows very strong. Put in half a pint of pippin jelly and the juice of 3 or 4 lemons. Boil all together and put to the golden pippins. Give them all a boil, scum them, and put them into glasses or pots. To preserve pippins for present eating. Pare them very thin and put them into a clean stewpan, saucepan, or preserving pan, according to the quantity you want. But scoop out the cores, and into every pippin put 2 or 3 long narrow bits of lemon peel. Take the parings, boil them in water enough to cover the pippins, strain it and make it as sweet as syrup. Pour it on your pippins and stew them till they are quite tender. They make a pretty plate. To preserve barberries. Take 1 pound of barberries picked from the stalks, put them into 2 quart pans, set them in a brass pot full of hot water to stew them. After this, strain them, add 1 pound of sugar and a pint of rose water. Boil them together a little, take half a pound of the best clusters of barberries you can get, dip them into the syrup while it is boiling, take out the barberries and let the syrup boil till it is thick. When they are cold, put them into glasses or gallipots with the syrup. To preserve barberries in bunches. Take any quantity of barberries without stripping them of their stalks. Split them with a knife, take out all the seed which is in them, then tie them in little bunches. Have clarified sugar, which set on the fire. When your sugar is at a high degree, put your little bunches in and boil them about 10 minutes, after which put them in a pan and place them in the stove with a slow fire for 3 days running, at the end of which time take them from that sugar which you set again on the fire to heighten it again to the above degree. for the barberries will have weakened it by throwing their juice in it. When that is done, put the bunches again in it, and place it as before in the stove for 3 whole days, after which draw out your bunches from the sugar and put them to drain on a wire grate, made on purpose for these sort of things. Then range them on a horsehair sieve and replace them in the stove to dry, and they are ready for use. To preserve Angelica in knots. Take young and thick stalks of Angelica, cut them into lengths of about 1/4 yard and scald them. Then put them into water, strip off the skins and cut them into narrow slips. Lay them on your preserving pan and put to them a thin sugar, that is, to 1 part sugar as clarified and 1 part water. Set it over the fire, let it boil, and set it by till next day. Then turn it in the pan, give it another boil, and the day after drain it and boil the sugar till it is a little smooth. Pour it on your Angelica, and if it be a good green, boil it no more. If not, heat it again, and the day following boil the sugar till it is very smooth, and pour it upon your Angelica. The next day boil your syrup till it rises to the top of your pan, and put your Angelica into the pan. Pour your syrup upon it, and keep it for use. To preserve Angelica in sticks. Angelica, not altogether so young as the other, cut into short pieces, about 1/4 yard or less. Scald it a little, then drain it, and put it into thin sugar as before. Boil it a little the next day. Turn it in the pan the bottom upwards and boil it, and then finish it as the other for knots. Note: when you will candy it, you must drain it from the syrup, wash it, and candy it as the orange and lemon. To preserve Ringo root. Take your ringo roots and parboil them reasonably tender, then pick and peel them. Wash them very clean, dry them with a cloth, and put in as much clarified sugar as will cover them. Boil them leisurely on a chafing dish of coals, till you see the rolls look clear and your syrup something thick, betwixt hot and cold, and put them up. To preserve sweet marjoram. Take the white of an egg, beat it very well, and take double refined sugar, beaten very fine and sifted. Then take the marjoram and rub it on a glass that is clean, and lay it in form of the glass. So do it with your egg, then sear it with your sugar on it, and lay it on papers to dry. To preserve quinces white. Pare and core the quinces. To every pound of sugar and quinces, put in a pint of water. Boil them together as fast as you can, uncovered. The same way you may preserve pippins white. To preserve quinces white or red. Core and pare your quinces. Those which you would have white, put into a pail of water for 2 or 3 hours. Then take as much sugar as they weigh, and add as much water as will make a syrup to cover them. Boil the syrup a little, then put in the quinces, and let them boil as fast as you can till they are very tender and clear. Afterwards take them out and boil the syrup a little higher alone, and when it is cold put the quinces up in pots. If you would have them red, put them raw into sugar and let them boil gently, being close covered till they are red. You must not put them into cold water. To preserve apricots green. Take the apricots when about to stone, before it becomes too hard for a pin easily to pass through. Pare them in ribs very neatly, because every stroke with the knife will be seen. Then put them into fair water as you pare them, and boil them till tender enough to slip easily from your pin. Drain them and put them into a thin sugar, that is to say, 1 part sugar clarified and 1 part water. Boil them a little and set them by till next day. Then give them another boil, and the day after drain them. Boil your syrup a little smooth and put it upon them without boiling your fruit. Let them remain in the syrup 4 or 5 days. Then boil some more sugar till it blows hard, and add it to them. Give all a boil, and let them lie till the day following. Then drain them from the syrup, and lay them out to dry, dusting them with a little fine sugar before you put them into the stove. To preserve apricots whole. Take the apricots when full grown, pare them, and take out their stones. Then have ready a pan of boiling water, throw them into it, and scald them till they rise to the top of the water. Take them out carefully with your scummer, and lay them on a sieve to drain. Then lay them in your preserving pan, and lay over them as much sugar, boiled to blow, as will cover them. Give them a boil round by setting the pan half on the fire and turning it about as it boils. Then set it full on the fire and let it have a covered boiling. Then let them settle a quarter of an hour, and pick those that look clean to one side, and those that do not to the other. Boil that side that is not clear till they become clear, and as they do so, pick them away, lest they boil to a paste. When you see they look all alike, give them a covered boiling, scum them, and set them by. The next day boil a little more sugar to blow very strong. Put it to the apricots and give them a very good boil. Scum and cover them with paper, and put them in a stove for 2 days. Then drain them and lay them out to dry, first dusting the plates you lay them on, and then the apricots extraordinarily well, blowing off what sugar lies white upon them. Put them into a very warm stove to dry, and when dry on one side, turn and dust them again. When quite dry, pack them up. Note: in the turning them, you must take care there be no little bladders in them. If there be, you must prick them with the point of a penknife and squeeze them out, otherwise they will blow and sour. To preserve apricot chips. Split the apricots and then take out the stones. Pare them and turn them round with your knife. Put them into your pan without scalding, and put as much sugar, boiled very smooth, as will cover them. Then manage them on the fire as the whole apricots. Scum them and set them in the stove. The next day boil some more sugar very strong. Drain the syrup from the apricots, boil it very smooth, put it to the fresh sugar, and give it a boil. Then put in the apricots, boil them first round, and then let them have a covered boil. Scum them and cover them with paper, then put them into the stove for 2 or 3 days. Drain them and lay them out to dry, first dusting them. To preserve apricots in jelly. Pare and stone your apricots, then scald them a little. Then lay them in your pan and put as much clarified sugar to them as will cover them. The next day drain the syrup and boil it smooth. Then slip in your apricots and boil as before. The next day make a jelly with codlings, boiling some apricots among them to give a better taste. When you have boiled the jelly to its proper height, Put in the apricots with their syrup and boil all together. When enough, scum them well and put them into your glasses. End of section 3. Preserves, Part 2. To preserve green codlings to keep all the year. Gather your codlings when they are about the size of a walnut, and let the stalk and a leaf or two remain on each. Put some vine leaves in a brass pan of spring water and cover them with a layer of codlings, then another layer of vine leaves, and proceed in the same manner till the pan is full. Cover it close to keep the steam in and set it on a slow fire. When they become soft, take off the skins with a penknife. Then put them in the same water with the vine leaves. It must be quite cold, or it perhaps may crack them. Put a little roach alum and set them over a very slow fire till they are green, which will be in about 3 or 4 hours. Then take them out and lay them on a sieve to drain. Make a good syrup and give them a gentle boil once a day for 3 days, after which put them into small jars. Cover them with brandy paper and keep them for use. To preserve green peas. Shell fine young peas and put them into boiling water with some salt. After boiling 5 minutes, drain them in a colander and put them on a cloth doubled 5 or 6 times on a table. Let them lie free in order to dry. Your bottle should be prepared beforehand and be quite clean and dry. Fill them with the peas and put on the top some mutton fat tried. Tie a bladder with a thin board or lath over them and let them be put in a cool dry closet or cellar. Boil your water when you use them and put in a little butter, salt and sugar, and as soon as they are enough, drain them and put them into a saucepan with some butter and shake it while it is melting. Peas done this way will keep good till Christmas. To preserve nectarines. Split the nectarines and take out the stones. Then put them into clarified sugar and boil them round till they have well taken the sugar. Take off the scum, cover them with a paper and set them by. The next day boil a little more sugar till it blows very strong. Put it to the nectarines and give them a good boil. Take off the scum, cover them and put them into the stove. The following day drain them and lay them out to dry, first dusting them a little, then put them into the stove. To preserve peaches whole. Take the Newington peach when full ripe, split it and take out the stone. Then have ready a pan of boiling water. Drop in the peaches and let them have a few moments scalding. Take them out and put them into as much sugar, only clarified, as will cover them. Give them a boil round, then scum them and set them by till the next day. Then boil some more sugar to blow very strong, which sugar put to the peaches and give them a good boil. Scum them and set them by till the day following. Then give them another good boil, scum them and put them into a warm stove for the space of 2 days. Then drain them and lay them out, one half over the other. Dust them and put them into the stove. The next day turn and dust them, and, when thoroughly dry, pack them up for use. How to preserve peach chips. Pare your peaches and take out the stones, then cut them into very thin slices, not thicker than the blade of a knife. Then, to every pound of chips, take 1 pound and a half of sugar, boiled to blow very strong. Throw in the chips, give them a good boil, and let them settle a little. Take off the scum, let them stand a quarter of an hour, and then give them another good boil, and let them settle as before. Then take off the scum, cover them and set them by, and the next day drain them and lay them out bit by bit. Dust them and dry them in a warm stove. When dry on one side, take them from the plate with a knife and turn them on a sieve, and again afterwards if they are not pretty dry, but which they generally are. How to preserve peaches in brandy. First, preserve your peaches whole, with their weight of sugar. Do not scald them in water, but boil them in the syrup 3 times. Lay your peaches in a large deep glass for the purpose. Take the syrup and pour it over them, with an equal quantity of brandy. Cover them close and keep them for use. Nectarines may be done in the same way. To preserve violet plums. Violet plums are a long time yellow, and are ripe in the month of June. They are preserved in the following manner. Put them into clarified sugar, just enough to cover them, and boil them pretty quick. The next day boil them again as before. The day after drain them and take away their skins, which you will find all flown off. Then put them into sugar, boil till it blows a little, and give them a boil. The day following boil some more sugar till it blows a little, and give them another boil. The next day boil some more sugar to blow very strong, put it to the plums in the syrup, boil them a little, then scum them. The day following drain them and lay them out to dry, observing to dust them before you put them into the stove. How to preserve green amber plums. Take the green amber plums when full grown, prick them in 2 or 3 places, and put them into cold water. Set them over the fire to scald, in which you must be very careful not to let the water be too hot, lest you hurt them. When they are very tender, put them into a very thin sugar, that is to say, 1 part sugar and 2 parts water. Give them a little warm in this sugar, cover them, and the next day give them another warm. The third day drain them and boil the syrup, adding a little more sugar. Then put the syrup to the plums and give them a boil, and the day after boil the syrup till very smooth. Then put it to the plums, cover them and put them into the stove. The day following boil some more sugar to blow very strong, put it to the fruit, give all a boil, and put them into the stove for 2 days. Then drain them and lay them out to dry, first dusting them very well. Manage them in the drying as other fruit. To preserve fruit green. Take pippins, apricots, pear plums or peaches while they are green, and put them in a preserving pan or stew pan. Cover them with vine leaves and then with fine clear spring water. Put on the cover of the pan, set them over a clear fire. When they begin to simmer, take them off and carefully with your slice take them out, peel and preserve them as you do other fruit. To preserve green orange plums. Take the green orange plums full grown, before they turn. Prick them with a fine bodkin, as thick all over as you possibly can. Put them into cold water as you prick them, and when all are done, set them over a very slow fire, and scald them with the utmost care you can, nothing being so subject to break, and if the skin flies, they are worth nothing. When they are tender, take them off the fire and set them by in the same water for 2 or 3 days. When they become sour and begin to fret on the top of the water, be careful to drain them very well, and put them in single rows in your preserving pan. Put to them as much thin sugar as will cover them, that is, 1 part sugar and 2 parts water. Set them over the fire, and by degrees warm them, till you perceive the sourness to be gone and the plums are sunk to the bottom. Then set them by, and the day after throw away that syrup, and put to them a fresh sugar, of 1 part sugar and 1 part water. In this sugar give them several heats, but not to boil, lest you hurt them. Cover them and set them in a warm stove, that they may suck in what sugar they can. The next day drain the sugar and boil it till it becomes smooth, adding some more fresh sugar. Pour this sugar on them, return them into the stove, and the day after boil the sugar to become very smooth. Pour it upon the plums and give all a gentle boil. Scum it and put them into the stove. The day following drain them out of the syrup and boil some fresh sugar, as much as you judge will cover them very smooth. Put it to your plums and give all a very good covered boiling. Then take off the scum, cover them and let them stand in the stove 2 days. Then drain and lay them out to dry, dusting them very well. To preserve the green Mogul plum. Take this plum when just upon turning ripe. Prick with a penknife to the very stone on that side where the cleft is, and put them into cold water as you do them. Then set them over a very slow fire to scald, and when they are become very tender, take them carefully out of the water, and put them into a thin sugar, that is, half sugar and half water. Warm them gently, cover them and set them by. The next day give them another warm and set them by. The day following drain the syrup and boil it smooth, adding to it a little fresh sugar, and give them a gentle boil. The day after boil the sugar very smooth, pour it upon them, and set them in the stove for 2 days. Drain them and boil a fresh sugar to be very smooth, or just to blow a little, and put it to your plums. Give them a good covered boiling, scum them, and put them into a stove for 2 days. Drain them and lay them out to dry, dusting them well. To preserve the green admirable plum. This is a little round plum, about the size of a damson. It leaves the stone when ripe, and is somewhat inclining to a yellow in colour, and very well deserves its name, being the finest green when done, and with 1/10 part of the trouble and charge, as you will find by the receipt. Take these plums when full grown, and just upon the turn. Prick them with a penknife in 2 or 3 places, and scald them by degrees till the water becomes very hot, for they will even bear boiling. Continue them in the water till they become green, then drain them and put them into clarified sugar. Boil them very well and let them settle a little. Then give them another boil if you perceive they shrink and take not the sugar in very well. Prick them with a fork all over as they lie in the pan, and give them another boil. Scum them and set them by. The next day boil some other sugar till it blows, and put it to them. Give them another boil. Set them in the stove for 1 night, and the next day drain them and lay them out, first dusting them. To preserve yellow amber plums. Take these plums when full ripe, put them into your preserving pan, and put to them as much sugar as will cover them. Give them a very good boil, let them settle a little, and boil them again 3 or 4 times. Scum them, and the next day drain them from the syrup. Return them into the pan, boil as much fresh sugar to blow as will cover them, and give them a thorough boiling. Scum them, set them in the stove for 24 hours and drain them. Then lay them out to dry, after having dusted them very well. Note, in the scalding of green plums you must always have a sieve in the bottom of your pan to put your plums in, that they may not touch the bottom, for those that do will burst before the others are scarcely warm. To preserve green figs. Take the small green figs, slit them on the top, put them in water for 10 days, and proceed thus. Put as much salt into the water as will make it bear an egg, then let it settle, take the scum off, and put the clear brine to the figs. Keep them in water for 10 days, then put them into fresh water, boil them till a pin will easily pass into them, drain and put them into other fresh water, shifting them every day for 4 days. Again drain them, put them into clarified sugar, give them a little warm, and let them stand till the next day. Warm them again, and when they are become green, give them a good boil. Then boil some other sugar to blow, put it to them, and give them another boil. The next day drain and dry them. To preserve ripe figs. Take the white figs when ripe, slit them in the tops, put them into clarified sugar, and give them a good boil. Scum them and set them by. The next day boil some more sugar till it blows, pour it upon them, and boil them again very well. Scum and set them in the stove. The day after, drain and lay them out to dry, first dusting them very well. To preserve raspberries. Choose raspberries that are not too ripe, and take the weight of them in sugar. Wet your sugar with a little water. Put in your raspberries and let them boil softly. Be careful not to break them. When they are clear, take them up and boil the syrup till it be thick enough, then put them in again, and when they are boiled, put them up in glasses. Another way to preserve raspberries. If you intend to preserve the red sort of raspberries, gather them on a dry day when they are just turning red, with the stalks on, about 1 inch long. Lay them singly on a dish, beat and sift their weight of double refined sugar, and strew it over them. To every quart of raspberries, take a quart of red currant jelly juice, and to it its weight of double refined sugar. Boil and thin it well, then put in your raspberries and give them a scald. Take them off and let them stand for 2 hours. Then set them on again and make them a little hotter. Proceed in this manner 2 or 3 times till they look clear, but take care to prevent their boiling, as that will occasion the stalks to come off. When they are tolerably cool, put them into jelly glasses with the stalks downwards. White raspberries may be preserved in the same manner, only using white currant jelly instead of red. To preserve green grapes. Take the largest and best grapes before they are thorough ripe. Stone and scald them, and let them lie 2 days in the water they are scalded in. Then drain them and put them into a thin syrup, and give them a heat over a slow fire. The next day turn the grapes in the pan and heat them again the day after. Then drain them, put them into clarified sugar, give them a good boil, scum them and set them by. The following day boil more sugar to blow, put it to the grapes, give all a good boil, scum them, and set them in a warm stove all night. The day after, drain the grapes and lay them out to dry, first dusting them very well. To preserve grapes in clusters with one leaf when you gather them. Take the great Gascoigne grapes when they are green, before they are too ripe, and prick every one of them. To every pound of grapes add 1 1/4 pounds of sugar. Make a syrup with the verjuice of the grapes stained. When your sugar is made clear and perfect, put in your grapes strained into juice. Put them in a deep basin, cover them close, and set them on a pot of scalding water to boil. When your grapes are tender, take them up, boil the syrup a little more, and, betwixt hot and cold, put them in broad glasses or gallipots, which is better than glasses, as you must lay one cluster above another. Then put a paper over them and tie them up. Another way to preserve grapes in clusters with one leaf. Take some close bunches of red or white grapes before they are too ripe, and put them into a pan with 1/4 pound of sugar candy, and fill the jar with brandy. Tie it close and set them in a dry place. To preserve mulberries whole. Set some mulberries over the fire in a skillet or preserving pan. Draw from them a pint of juice when it is strained, then take 3 pounds of sugar beaten very fine, wet the sugar with the pint of juice. Boil up the sugar and skim it. Put in 2 pounds of ripe mulberries, and let them stand in the syrup till they are thoroughly warm. Then set them on the fire and let them boil very gently. Do them but half enough, and put them by in the syrup till next day. Then boil them gently again when the syrup is pretty thick and will stand in round drops. When it is cold they are enough, and may be put into a gallipot for use. To preserve mulberries dry. Let the mulberries not be too ripe, but rather a reddish green, and tart. Having prepared a quantity of sugar equal to the mulberries, and brought it to its blown quality, throw in the mulberries and give them a covered boiling. The sugar may also be melted with the juice of mulberries to clarify it. When they have boiled, take the pan from the fire, scum it, and set it in the stove till next day. Then take them out, drain them from the syrup, and put them up in boxes for use. To preserve walnuts white. Pare your walnuts till only the white appears, and be careful in doing them that they do not turn black, and as fast as you do them throw them into salt and water, and let them lie till your sugar is ready. Take 3 pounds of good loaf sugar, put it into your preserving pan, set it over a charcoal fire, and put as much water as will just wet the sugar. Let it boil. Then have ready 10 or 12 whites of eggs strained and beat up to a froth. Cover your sugar with a froth as it boils and skim it. Then boil it and skim it till it is as clear as crystal. Just give them a boil till they are tender, then take them out and lay them in a dish to cool. When cool, put them in your preserving pan, and when the sugar is as warm as milk, pour it over them. When quite cold, paper them down. To preserve walnuts black. Take walnuts of the smaller kind, put them in salt and water, and change the water every day for 9 days. Then put them in a sieve and let them stand in the air till they begin to turn black. Then put them into a jug, pour boiling water over them, and let them stand till the next day. Put them into a sieve to drain, stick a clove in each end of your walnut and put them into a pan of boiling water and let them boil 5 minutes. Then take them up, make a thin syrup and scald them in it 3 or 4 times a day till your walnuts are black and bright. Make a thick syrup with a few cloves and a little ginger cut in slices. Skim it well, pour in your walnuts, boil them 5 or 6 minutes and put them into your jars. Lay brandy paper over them and tie them down close with a bladder. They will eat better the second year after their keeping than in the first, as their bitterness goes off with time. Another way to preserve walnuts black. Take the smaller sort of walnuts when full grown and not shelled. Boil them in water till very tender, but not to break, so they will become black. Drain them and stick a clove in every one. Put them into your preserving pan, and if you have any peach syrup or that of the white walnuts, it will be as well or better than sugar. Put as much syrup as will cover the walnuts. Boil them very well, scum them, and set them by. The next day boil the syrup till it becomes smooth. Put in the walnuts and give them another boil. The day after drain them and boil the syrup till it becomes smooth, adding more syrup if occasion. Give all a boil, scum them, and put them into the pot for use. To preserve walnuts green. Gather your walnuts when they are not much larger than a good nutmeg. Wipe them very clean and lay them in strong salt and water 24 hours. Then take them out and wipe them very clean. Have ready a stew pan of boiling water, throw them in, let them boil a minute and take them out. Lay them on a coarse cloth and boil your sugar as directed for the white walnuts. Then just give your walnuts a scald in the sugar, take them up and lay them to cool. Put them in your preserving pot and pour on your syrup. Note, they answer much better boiled up with the coarsest Lisbon sugar. To preserve garlic. Take a head of garlic, peel the cloves, throw them into spring water, give them just a boil and preserve them as you do your apricots. To preserve green almonds. Take the almonds when they are well grown and make a lye with wood, charcoal and water. Boil the lye till it feels very smooth. Strain it through a sieve and let it settle till clear. Then pour off the clear into another pan and set it on the fire in order to blanch off the down that is on the almonds, which may be done thus. When the lye is scalding hot, throw in 2 or 3 almonds and try, when they have been in some time, if they will blanch. If they will, put in the rest, and the moment you find their skins will come off, remove them from the fire, put them into cold water and blanch them one by one, rubbing them with salt. Then wash them in several waters in order to clean them. In short, till you see no soil in the water. When this is done, throw them into boiling water and let them boil till so tender as a pin may easily pass through them. Drain and put them into clarified sugar without water. They being green enough, do not require a thin sugar to bring them to a colour, but, on the contrary, if too much heated, they will become too dark a green. The next day boil the syrup and put it on them. The day after, boil it till it is very smooth. The day following, give all a boil together, scum them, and let them lie 4 or 5 days. Then, if you will dry them or put them in jelly, you must follow the directions as for green apricots. To preserve almonds dry. To a pound of Jordan almonds, Take ½ pound of double refined sugar. Blanch one half of the almonds and leave the other half unblanched. Beat the white of an egg very well, pour it on your almonds, and wet them well with it. Then boil your sugar again, dip in your almonds, stir them all together that your sugar may hang well on them. Then put them on plates, place them in the oven after the bread is drawn, let them stay in all night, and they will keep the year round. End of section 4. Preserves, Part 3. To preserve cherries liquid. Take the best morello cherries when ripe. Either stone them or clip their stalks off. To every pound take a pound of sugar. Boil it till it blows very strong. Then put in the cherries and by degrees bring them to boil as fast as you can, that the sugar may come all over them. Scum them and set them by, and the next day boil some more sugar to the same degree. Put some jelly of currants drawn as directed. For example, if you boil 1 pound of sugar, take 1 pint of jelly of currants, put in the cherries and the syrup to the sugar, then add the jelly, and give all a boil together. Scum them and fill your glasses or pots, taking care, as they cool, to disperse them equally, or otherwise they will all swim to the top. To preserve cherries dry. Stone your cherries and weigh them to 8 pounds. Put 2 pounds of sugar, boil it till it blows very strong. Put the cherries to the sugar and heat them by degrees till the sugar is melted, for when the cherries come in, it will so cool the sugar that it will seem like glue, and should you put it on a quick fire at first, it will endanger the burning. When you find the sugar is all melted, then boil it as quick as possible till the sugar flies over them. Scum and set them by in an earthen pan, for where the sugar is so thin, it will be apt to canker in copper, brass or silver. The next day drain them and boil the sugar till it rises. Pour in your cherries, give them a good boil, scum them and set them by till the next day. Then drain and lay them out on sieves and dry them in a very hot stove. To preserve cherries with the leaves and stalks green. Dip the stalks and the leaves in the best vinegar when it is boiling hot. Stick the sprigs upright in a sieve till they are dry. In the meantime, boil some double refined sugar to syrup, and dip the cherries, stalks and leaves in the syrup, and just let them scald. Lay them on a sieve and boil the sugar to a candy height. Then dip the cherries, stalks, leaves and all. Then stick the branches and leaves and dry them as you do other sweetmeats. They look very beautiful at candlelight in a dessert. Mrs Smith's way of preserving cherries in jelly. Take green gooseberries, slice them on the side, that part of the liquor may run out. Put them into pots and put into the pots 2 or 3 spoonfuls of water. Stop the pots very close and put them in a skillet of water over the fire, till the gooseberries have made a liquor as clear as water. ½ pound of gooseberries will make this liquor. Take a pound of cherries stoned, 1 pound of double refined sugar beaten small, strew some at the bottom of your silver basin, and then a layer of cherries, and cover them over with sugar. Keep some to throw over them as they boil. Put to the cherries 5 or 6 spoonfuls of gooseberry liquor. Set them over the fire and boil them very moderately at first, till your sugar is melted, and afterwards as fast as you can. Scum it very well and carefully. When your liquor is brought to a jelly, it will stick upon your spoon, and then put it up. They do best half a pound at a time. To preserve cherries the French way. Take morello cherries, hang them by their stalks one by one, where the sun may come to dry them, and no dust can get to them. This must be in autumn. Cut the stalks as for preserving. Place them one by one in your glasses, scrape as much sugar as will cover them. Then fill them up with white wine, set them in a stone to swell, and then use them. To preserve cherries a cheap way. Take 6 pounds of cherries and stone them. Put half a pound of the best powdered sugar, boil them in a little copper or other vessel as most convenient. When you think they are enough, lay them one by one on the back side of a sieve. Set them to dry in an oven that has been heated, and when dry, put them in a stove to keep them so. If any liquor be left, do more cherries as above. They will keep well coloured all the year. To preserve gooseberries green. Take the longer sort of gooseberries, the latter end of May or beginning of June, before the green colour has left them. Set some water over the fire, and, when it is ready to boil, throw in the gooseberries. Let them have a scald, then take them out and carefully remove them into cold water. Set them over a very slow fire to green. Cover them close that none of the steam can get out, and when they have obtained their green colour, which will perhaps be 4 or 5 hours, drain them gently into clarified sugar, and give them a heat. Set them by till next day, and give them another heat. This you must repeat 4 or 5 times in order to bring them to a very good green colour. Thus you may serve them to table by way of compote. If you wish to preserve them to keep either dry or in jelly, you must proceed as directed for green apricots. To preserve gooseberries white. Take the large Dutch gooseberries when full grown, but before they are quite ripe. Pare them into fair water, stone them, put them into boiling water, and let them boil very tender. Then put them into clarified sugar in an earthen pan, and put as many in one pan as will cover the bottom, and set them by till next day. Then boil the syrup a little, and pour it on them. The day after boil it smooth, and pour it on them. The third day give them a gentle boil round, by setting the side of the pan over the fire, and turning it about as it boils, till they have had a boil all over. The day following make a jelly with codlings, and finish them as you do the others. To preserve gooseberries whole without stoning. Get the largest preserving gooseberries, pick off the black eye, but not the stalk. Scald them, but take great care they do not break. Then take them up and throw them into cold water, and to every pound of gooseberries put 1.5 pounds of double refined sugar, which must be first clarified. To every pound of sugar a pint of water, and when the syrup is cold, lay your gooseberries single into your preserving pan, and put the syrup to them. Set them on a slow fire, and let them boil, but not too fast, lest they break. When you perceive the sugar has entered them, take them off, cover them with white paper, and set them by till next day. Then take them out of the syrup, boil the syrup till it begins to be ropy, scum it, put it to them again, and set them on a gentle fire. Let them preserve gently till you perceive the syrup will rope, then take them off, set them by till they are cold, and cover them with paper. Boil some gooseberries in fair water. When the liquor is strong, strain it off, let it stand to settle, and to every pint of that liquor put a pound of double refined sugar, and make a jelly of it. Put the gooseberries in glasses. When cold, pour the jelly over them, and the next day paper them. Wet and half dry the inside paper to lie down the closer. Put on your upper paper and set them in the stove. If you have a mind to make a little tree of them according to art, they will be pretty in a dessert. To preserve gooseberries dry. To every pound of gooseberries, when stoned, put 2 pounds of sugar, but boil the sugar till it blows very strong, then strew in the gooseberries and give them a gentle boil, till the sugar comes all over them. Let them settle a quarter of an hour, give them another good boil, scum them, and set them by till the next day. Then drain and lay them out on sieves to dry, dusting them well. Put them before a brisk fire in the stove, and when dry on one side, turn and dust them on the other. When quite dry, put them into your box. To preserve gooseberries, damsons, or plums. Gather them when dry, full grown, and not ripe. Pick them one by one, put them into glass bottles that are very clean and dry, and cork them close with new corks. Then put a kettle of water on the fire, and put in the bottles with care. Wet not the corks, but let the water come up to the necks. Make a gentle fire till they are a little coddled and turn white. Do not take them up till cold. Then pitch the corks all over, or wax them close, and set them in a cool, dry cellar. To preserve currants for tarts. Put a pound of sugar into a preserving pan for every pound and a quarter of currants, with a sufficient quantity of juice of currants to dissolve the sugar. When it boils, skim it, and put in your currants, and boil them till they are very clear. Put them into a jar, cover them with brandy paper, and keep them in a dry place. To preserve currants in jelly. Stone your currants, clip off the black tops, and clip them from the stalks. To every pound boil 2 pounds of sugar till it blows very strong. Slip in the currants, give them a quick boil, take them from the fire and let them settle a little. Then give them another boil and put in a pint of currant jelly drawn as directed till you see the jelly will flake from the scummer. Then remove it from the fire, let it settle a little, scum them and put them into your glasses, and as they cool take care to disperse them equally. To preserve red currants in bunches. Having stoned your currants, tie 6 or 7 bunches together with a thread to a piece of split deal about the length of your finger. Put double refined sugar, equal in weight to your currants, into your preserving pan with a little water, and boil it till your sugar flies. Then put the currants in and give them a boil up, and cover them till next day. When take them out and either dry or put them in glasses, with the syrup boiled up with a little of the juice of red currants. Put brandy paper over them and tie them close down with another paper, and set them in a dry place. To preserve currants in bunches dry. Stone your currants and tie them up in bunches. To every pound of currants boil 2 pounds of sugar till it blows very strong. Dip in the currants, let them boil very fast till the sugar flies all over them. When settled a quarter of an hour, boil them again till the sugar rises almost to the top of the pan. Let them settle, scum them, and set them by till next day. Then drain them and lay them out, taking care to spread the sprigs that they may not dry clogged together. Dust them very much and dry them in a hot stove. To preserve or dry samphire. Take it in bunches as it grows. Put on the fire a large deep stew pan filled with water. When it boils, throw in a little salt, put in your samphire, and when you see it look of a fine beautiful green, take off the pan directly, and with a fork take up the samphire, lay it on sieves to drain, and when cold, either preserve it or dry it. If you frost them, they will be very pretty. To preserve hops with gooseberries. Take the largest Dutch gooseberries, cut them across the head and halfway down. Pick out the seeds clean, but do not break the gooseberries. Take fine long thorns, scrape them and stick on your gooseberries. Put in the leaf of the one to the cut part of the other, and so till your thorn is full. Then put them in a new pipkin with a close cover. Cover them with water and let them stand scalding till they are green, before your water boils. While they are gently greening, make a syrup for them, and take whole green gooseberries and boil them in water till they all break. Then strain the water through a sieve. To every pound of hops, put 1.5 pounds of double refined sugar. Put the sugar and hops into the liquor and boil them uncovered till they are clear and green, then take them up and lay them on pie plates and boil your syrup longer. Lay your hops in a very deep gallipot, and when the syrup is cold, pour it on them. Cover them with paper and keep them in a stove for some time, afterwards in a very dry place. To preserve damsons or bullace. Put your damsons in a pot. To 2 quarts put 1 pound of fine sugar and bake them in a slow oven 2 hours. Then set them in a cool place a week, and pour over them as much rendered beef suet as will be an inch thick. It must be put on hot every time you take any out, and they will keep all the year. To preserve beet roots. Boil your beet root for 4 hours, till you see it quite soft. Then make a syrup of 1 pint of spring water and 1/2 pound of sugar, and boil the beet root in it for 1/4 of an hour. Then put it in gallipots for use. When you want to use them for sauce, soak them in warm water for 10 minutes or more, and slice them into oil and vinegar. To preserve apples red all the year. Get a dozen of pippins or pearmains, pare them, put 1/4 of water to them, 1 pennyworth of cinnamon stick, great part of a lemon rind, and some cochineal steeped in water, and 1/2 pound of loaf sugar. Then send them to the oven, tie over them a paper, and after that coarse paste. Do not forget to scoop a hole in the middle of the apples to let the liquor through them. Let them stand in a slow oven. When you think they are enough, take them out of the oven, take off the paper, and let them stand in the syrup. In the morning drain it from them, and put to it a little water, 1 pound or 1.5 pounds of sugar, as you would have a quantity of syrup for them. And when you have scummed them well, clear it with the white of an egg. When that is done, put in your apples again, and let them boil in the syrup till it be clear. Then put in as much cochineal as will make them of a good colour. Sometimes take the apples out, lest they should break. And let the syrup be boiling, and scum it often. When your apples are half enough, let them stand in the syrup all night, and in the morning set it over the fire, which must be of charcoal. Let it boil up, then take the apples out and put them in again. When your syrup has boiled to a thickness for keeping, and your apples a good colour, shred your lemon peel and put in it ½ ounce of candied orange cut in thin slices. Put your apples into the pot you design to keep them in, and when your syrup is half cold, put it on your apples and put them up for use. To dry golden pippins. Pare your pippins and make a hole in them as directed for preserving them. Then weigh them and boil them till tender. Take them out of the water, and to every pound of pippins take 1.5 pounds of loaf sugar, and boil it till it blows very strong. Then put in the fruit and boil it very quick till the sugar flows all over the pan. Let them settle, cool them, scum them, and set them by till the next day. Then drain them and lay them out to dry, dusting them with a fine sugar before you put them into the stove. The next day turn them and dust them again. When dry, pack them up. You may dry them in slices or quarters after the same manner. To dry apples or pears. First boil them in new ale wort on a slow fire for 1/4 hour. Then take them out and press them flat, and dry them in your oven or stove. Put them up in papers in a box, and they will keep all the year. To dry green codlings. Take your codlings and coddle them gently, close covered. Then peel your codlings and put them into cold water, setting them over a slow fire till they are green, close covered. They will be 2 to 3 hours doing. To dry angelica in knots. Drain what quantity you will from the syrup, and boil as much sugar as will cover it till it blows. Put in your angelica and give it a boil till it blows again. When cold, drain it, tie it in knots, and put it into a warm stove to dry, first dusting it a little. When dry on one side, turn it to dry on the other, and then pack it up. To parch almonds. Take 1 pound of sugar, make it into a syrup, boil it candy high, and put in 3/4 pound of Jordan almonds blanched. Keep them stirring all the while till they are dry, then crisp them, put them in a box, and keep them dry. To dry barberries. Stone the barberries and use them in bunches. Weigh them, and to every pound of berries clarify 2 pounds of sugar. Make the syrup with ½ pint of water to 1 pound of sugar. Put your barberries into the syrup when it is scalding hot, let them boil a little, and set them by with a paper close to them. The next day make them scalding hot. Repeat this 2 days, but do not boil it after the first time, and when they are cold, lay them on earthen plates, strew sugar well over them, the next day turn them on a sieve and sift them again with sugar. Turn them daily till they are dry, taking care your stove is not too hot. How to keep fruit for tarts all the year. Take your fruit when it is fit to pot, and strew some sugar at the bottom of the pot, then fruit, and then sugar, so on till the pot is full. Cover them with sugar, tie a bladder over the pot, then leather, and keep it in a dry place. To keep grapes, gooseberries, apricots, peaches, nectarines, cherries, currants, and plums the whole year. Take fine dry sand that has little or no saltness in it, and make it as dry as possible with often turning it in the sun. Gather your fruits when they are just ripening or coming near ripe, and dip the ends of the stalks in melted pitch or beeswax. and having a large box with a close lid. Dry your fruit a little in the sun to take away the superfluous moisture, and lightly spread a layer of sand at the bottom of the box, and a layer of fruit on it, but not too near each other. Then scatter sand very even, about an inch thick, over them, and so another layer till the box is full. Then shut the box lid down close, that the air may not penetrate. And whenever you take out anything, be sure to mind the placing them even again, so you will have them fit for tarts or other uses, till the next season. If they are a little wrinkled, wash them in warm water, and they will plump up again. You may use millet instead of sand, if you think it more convenient. To keep figs and stone fruit sound and fit, for use all the year. Take a large earthen pot, put the fruit into it, a layer of their own leaves being between them. Then boil water and honey, scumming it till no more will rise. Make it not too thick of the honey, and pour it warm on them. Stop up the vessel close, and when you take them out for use, put them 2 hours in warm water, and they will have in a great measure their natural taste. To keep grapes on the tree, or when pulled off the tree. When they are come to their full growth, before they are quite ripe, make for every bunch of grapes a bag of white paper well oiled. Close the top, that no rain can get into the bag, and they will keep good till after Christmas. Or if you pull them when just ripe, and dip their stalks in melted pitch or wax, and hang them in strings across a room, so that they do not touch one another. Pears will keep the same way all the year. To keep walnuts or filberts all the year. Gather them when they are ripe, with the green husks on, bury them in dry sand, and mix the filberts with them. How to keep all sorts of flowers. Gather them on a very fine clear day, at 12 o'clock. Have ready a box and a little writing sand. Place a layer of sand, then a layer of flowers, and so on alternately till the box is full. Close the box, that no air can get in. To dry artichokes red. Boil your artichokes in water till you see they are soft. Then take them out and pound some cochineal very fine, and mix in fresh water, and boil them again a quarter of an hour. Then dry them in bags for a quarter of an hour. To keep walnuts all the year. Take your walnuts full ripe and peel them. Then dry them well in the sun for a week or more. Rub them often with a cloth till you see no mould on them. Then keep them in a bag in a dry place, and when you want any for a dessert, crack and peel them quite clean, but take care that you keep the nut whole or in quarters. Then put them in some spring water, as warm as you may bear your finger in. Let them stand 3 or 4 hours, then put them in cold spring water, and let them stand all night. The next day, when you go to set your dessert, put them in glasses, and they will be crisp and fine as when fresh gathered. To keep kidney beans. Gather them on a dry day, dry them in the sun, and keep them in papers in a dry place, and before you use them, lay them in warm water. End of section 5.